New this week from Marvel Comics, Namor, issue number 4, written by Jason Aaron, art by Paul Davidson and Alex Linz. It is high time that we return to what has arguably been the most anticipated comic series of the year for me, the return to the standalone Namor series at Marvel from legendary writer Jason Aaron. The subtitle to this whole series is The Last King of Atlantis, which is fitting because this is starting to feel like the Namor story to end all Namor stories, as it retrospectively deconstructs the myth of the underwater king while simultaneously adding to it and becoming the definitive Namor tale. If you've been following me for some time, then you know that I read a lot of comics on a weekly basis, which means that sort of unconsciously my tolerance to be affected emotionally or moved by a comic is at a larger threshold. And I'm clarifying that because I want you to hear me when I say that this may have been the best single issue of a legacy superhero comic book series this year. If you are unfamiliar with Namor comics, which is fair because he hasn't had an ongoing series in quite some time, this comic is still a beautiful, harrowing, worthwhile journey for you to embark upon. Jason Aaron is expanding upon the lore of Namor in such a palatable, heartfelt, and expressive way that I hope is a sign of new beginnings for the character and for the fandom of this character. I know that Jason Aaron will most likely not be returning to this character after the finale of this series due to Absolute Superman. I hope that this series encourages Marvel to return to the character sooner rather than later with a new writer at the helm. This is truly the blueprint for how to revitalize a character's myth, and Jason Aaron already did it once with Thor, and I hope that the comic book community is taking notice. Let's talk more specifically about Namor issue number 4, which means spoilers ahead. The whole conceit of this new saga for the disgraced, semi-villainous Namor is such a cool, epic concept that has certainly lived up to the hype. As Namor descends into the depths from which he was banished to somehow intercede in the war between the 7 kings of the deep, all vying for control in the power vacuum the destruction of Atlantis brought. In issue number 4, Namor is deposited on the bottom of the sea from the mouth of a whale as he encounters the Beast King, who is literally the manifestation of the entire coral reef, moving as a collective with other giant bestial creatures as they seek to reclaim the territory of Atlantis and seek retribution against the sea peoples that have abused and exploited them for centuries. This entire concept and the accompanying artwork is the most cool, inventive idea that further legitimizes the need for more Namor comics. We even get a flashback to the golden age of Marvel Comics here as the Beast King chastises Namor for abusing his power over the Beast in the past. Additionally, as has been the format for every issue thus far, we get a glimpse into the life of young Prince Namor combating the policies of his grandfather, who allows the low-born Atlantean people to starve as the palace overfills with bounty. We then learn that Namor took it upon himself to clandestinely hunt for large beasts in order to feed the starving Atlantean people without his grandfather's permission. However, in Namor's absence one day, King Thakor discovers the supposed treachery of the peasants and orders that every peasant be whipped according to how many bites of the king's food they took. But Namor arrives home just in time and confesses solemnly to the crime, and accepts every lash assigned to the peasants, taking a beating for days on end without uttering a single cry. Thor takes a lot of credit as the most humble, coolest, strongest royalty figure in Marvel Comics universe, but maybe we should re-examine Namor in that conversation. Meanwhile, in the present, Namor jets off from the war reef towards the troubled cries of a whale in the distance, hoping to win the favor of the Beast King by protecting it. Soon he discovers that the whale is in fact being butchered by a crew of sea peoples led by Orca, who have taken a downed shield helicarrier as their own pirate ship. Which again is just such a cool idea! Namor attempts to fight the crew at first, but then realizes that they have slaughtered the whale in order to abate their own starvation. However, Namor has little time to rest and consider the situation as the Beast King and the War Reef arrive, and Namor is forced to do battle with both sides, as Namor and the helicarrier are then brought to the bottom of the reef by a giant kraken-like creature. Unsure of who is right and who is to blame anymore, Namor looks up and realizes where he is for the first time, standing in the shadow of the ruins of Atlantis, face to face with his own shame. One of the most enticing aspects of this comic is the uncompromising, complex characterization of Namor himself. The question of hero versus villain seems trivial in comparison to the fraught, murky, distended history of the character that we are forced to witness. It is certainly unclear if Namor considers himself a hero or savior anymore, or if he has resigned himself to be the ignorant, merciless conqueror that his peers seem to remember him as. Instead, the narrative seems to simply be presenting the facts of the case, assigning us the difficult, uncomfortable role as judge to Namor's actions, past, present, and future. Furthermore, the emotional stakes of this story seem to be asking the desperate question: can Namor live up to his legend? Can he be the hero we need him to be one last time? Which is the sentiment I'm referring to when I say that this feels like the pivotal Namor story in the modern canon. This is truly a distinct, special comic series that interrogates both its readers and its central character. Additionally, as a last glowing highlight, I cannot lay enough praise on artists Paul Davidson and Alex Lins, who have convinced me in short order that they should be doing a whole host of Marvel Comics properties. The pages of this series thus far are laid out in such a talented, idiosyncratic way that makes the whole world of Namor pop and come alive. A diverse gradient of color for the underwater world and the depths, the spectacular, specific lighting choices, and the fluid, bubble-like texture of the action sequences in these difficult environments makes this comic stand out even more from traditional superhero comics. This feels like the way Namor comics should be presented. It is an otherworldly place that we are unfamiliar with. Please support your local comic book stores and pick up Namor issue number 4 on shelves now. Let's do our part and keep this series alive. I absolutely love the design of the War Reef, the Beast King. And yeah, my jaw was practically on the floor with this 2-page spread. This is so cool. Now there were 4 issues in, I love seeing these past flashbacks because it shows how alive and advanced the world of Atlantis was back then compared to how desolate it is now. And these flashbacks really make you care for Namor. I love that this narrative is presenting thinking you're doing the right thing versus the consequences of that. And this is what I was talking about with the paneling and layout. I mean, look at this. Where else are you going to get something like this other than a Namor comic? God, it's so heartbreaking. Things used to be so good. He used to be such a hero. What happened, man? Black suit Namor is still the coolest goddamn Marvel costume. Fight me.